What's happening, everybody? I'm Steve, and welcome back to Junkdrummer TV, and welcome to my newest episode of Drum Teacher Reviews. This is where I review TV shows and movies that have a music-centric theme. First one I did was Whiplash, and it was a 30-minute video of me completely destroying that movie. And I cannot believe that many people liked it, because I got destroyed in the comments. But I stand by that movie being terrible. With that being said, I wanted the next review to be a movie that I absolutely love. I found this movie last night, like way late last night, as in I was up until like 5 o'clock this morning watching it. And it's called Frank. Now, there's going to be spoilers aplenty in this, so if you haven't watched this and you are interested in my jibber-jabber about it, stop this video now and go watch it. The best part about this is this movie is free on YouTube, so you can go watch it right now. It's like an hour and a half, and I will tell you this, if you're not wanting spoilers, I loved this movie. It has affected me. Man, I haven't been this affected by a movie since I watched Joker. I love it. I love it. So if you want to go do that now. Now, that out of the way, let's get into this movie. I really picked a hard movie for myself because it's almost impossible to explain what's going on in this movie. This movie is written by Jon Ronson, who wrote The Men Who Stare at Goats, and that's how I found out about this movie. I went down a Jon Ronson YouTube hole last night and came about this movie that he wrote. The best way I can explain it is it's the character you're seeing where I'm running the trailer here. It's about a musician, this guy who always wears this big paper mache mask, and it follows this actually a former Weasley brother as kind of the main. He's almost a protagonist and then becomes the antagonist. So it's about him wanting to be a musician and a songwriter, and he's a keyboard player, and he stumbles into this band that has an unpronounceable name, and it's led by this enigmatic, strange character named Frank. Now, that character Frank is modeled after this kind of fringe, absurdist performance artist in England named Frank Sidebottom, but it is not a traditional biography about Frank Sidebottom. I went down the big wormhole last night. Like I said, I was up till after I watched the movie, it's up again till 6 a.m. researching all of this. But Jon Ronson, the writer, and there's another guy who wrote it, made this character, and you're seeing what he looks like here. Kind of amalgamation of the real Frank Sidebottom. Just go check it out. It's super strange. And Captain Beefheart, and there's definitely some Daniel Johnston in this character. So Weasley, he happens upon a scene where there's a guy losing his shit and is drowning trying to drown himself in a river or a lake, and there's a band outside of their trusty van watching it go down, and apparently it's their keyboard player who's having a nervous breakdown. Mental illness is a big part of this movie, and I think it's what really is the thing that hits you, because it's a black comedy. It's definitely absurdist. But they're saying the band had Weasley hears the band saying, we can't play this gig tonight because our keyboard player's, whatever happened to him, and his name's John in the movie, and he's like, I play keyboards, and then he hooks up with this band, and he doesn't see the leader because he's in the van, and he goes to play a gig with them, and he shows up, and it's that guy right there, and they're just playing music that really sounded like Captain Beefheart, with lots of noise and atypical musicianship is the easiest way to put it. I actually think all of the actors played their own music, which was not really hard because no one was really playing traditional music in this video or in this movie. And he plays on stage, and Maggie Gyllenhaal's in the band, and the drummer from Autolux is in the band, and then some French dude, and then Frank. And man, this movie is so good. So they do the gig, shit blows up, Maggie Gyllenhaal throws stuff on stage, and it feels like a performance art type thing. So then he basically gets willingly kidnapped by the band, and they go off to this island, and they rehearse for a year, for a whole year, and they do all kinds of wacky stuff. Nothing is typical in the making of any of the music, and at the center of it all is this character named Frank, and it's played by Michael Fassbender, and this, I think, might be his greatest role. I love him as young Magneto. He's really good as the sex addict. I can't remember that movie, but man, he is phenomenal in this movie. You don't see his face until at the very end, and his accent was American, and it didn't even sound like him. I thought that they were doing some sort of gonzo thing where, like, Fassbender was the body and someone else was playing the voice. That's how good he is in this movie. He is so fantastic. I love this movie. So they're making music, and sometimes making music is them taking crazy straws and you know, moving them up and down, making that sound into the microphone, and they record water, lots of like found noises, and there is a tradition of that. But they're locked away in this cabin out in nowhere for a year, and then one day they finally decide to make the record. This whole, up until this part of the movie, it's just this zany, and this movie, it takes its time. It's kind of a quiet movie, if that makes sense. But the whole time they're in the process of producing this record, John Weasley is documenting it all and putting it on Twitter and YouTube. And there's like a running gag about hashtags in it. And this is where the movie really starts to hit you. They make a record, and the record gets made, and then through John's, or Weasley, his Twitter and YouTube account, they kind of become like cult favorites on the internet, because there's just so much wacky shit going on. Everyone in this band is mentally ill in some way. And I mean that as delicately as I can put it. Maggie Gyllenhaal has obvious rage issues. There's a French guitarist who, he kind of has whacked out rage issues. The manager is insane. But then Frank is this kind of like earnest, innocent ringleader. And then John, outside of it, and this is where it really hit me, John was this like fiercely ambitious kind of normie. He was the normie of this bunch, and he's very ambitious. He wants to become a famous musician. They make the record, and then John says, hey, we have fans. And then you could tell that Frank hadn't even thought of that. And that's where this movie really started to hit me really hard. He was just making music because it was a thing that he wanted to do. As we found out later, he had some serious mental illness. And maybe this was therapy. And that was another thing that I caught from this. And man, so many things hit so hard for me on this movie. The musical sessions that were practices and the recordings were almost like therapy sessions for 4 broken people. The drummer, I don't think she ever talked. She did. She talked very little. And it was these 4 people who were making music, and man, the music is whacked. It's like Captain Beefheart meets Daniel Johnston. I love Daniel Johnston, by the way. And John says, hey, we have fans, and they want us to play at South by Southwest. And you could tell that this band is trepidatious about it. They're making music without any intent. It's the most pure form of art. There was no commerce, to me anyway. This is what I got out of it. There was no commerce attached. And then John's like, dude, we have fans. Let's go to America, because they're in Ireland. And let's go to America and let's play South by Southwest. And if you're a band trying to do something, South by Southwest is where we all want to play, right? And Frank is so innocent. Like, he shows him his Twitter, and Frank's like, what does this number 117352 or whatever at the bottom of this mean? And he's like, that's how many people have viewed it. And Frank's like, whoa, like, you know, people may want to hear us. People may want to hear what we sound like. And again, it's absurdist, wacky, outsider music. Fans of Black Midi might actually like the music in this movie. And that's when everything turns. It goes from this black comedy, kind of a light fantasy movie that centers around this very eclectic guy who won't take his mask off. He never takes his mask off till the very end. And so they go to Texas, and that's when things turn. John Weasley turns into the ambitious musician who sees the brass ring and is now going to try to do everything he can to get that. And man, I really felt like that really hit home for me, because I've oftentimes been that overly ambitious guy in my bands that may have kind of wore out other musicians with my laser focus of trying to accomplish. The rest of the band is not wanting this to go down. Things really start breaking down. John is hanging out with the promoters. It's these two chicks. So music, there's like, you know, two hot chicks that put this gig together. Such a music business cliche. And he realizes there might be a lot of people at this gig. And these people at this gig are wanting to see this thing that they've seen grow and live on social media. This movie works on so many levels. It deals with you know, social media obsession and fads and art and pure art and how you want to monetize that art. And so John's like, whoa, we probably should try to make our music, and I can't remember how he put it. It was like, make our music less wacky and crazy and outsider, and make it more, you know, inside and more la 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 la. There's actually a joke in the movie that musicians get where John writes this kind of really mediocre. There's a great ukulele joke where, like, I guess we're just going to be, you know, a ukulele band and play nice, pleasing things to the ear. And John writes a song that's very la 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 la, right? And it's such an insider joke thing. If you're a songwriter, you know the la 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 thing. Frank is now showing signs of the obvious mental issues that he has. You go through the first half of this movie and you just come to accept that there's this guy who just has a paper mache, there it is right there, a paper mache hat on, or a mask on the whole time. And John tries to get him to write stuff that's more popular. And then Frank writes this song that's so genius. It's so good. And he talks about it's a song that will be my most loved song, or my nicest song, however he put it. And it's songs like, it starts out like Coca-Cola, Kiss Me on My Lips. And you can just tell that he's just like distilling all of the shallow commercial shit that gets put into pop music. Man, this movie's so good. I hope you've watched this if you went this far. The guitar player and the drummer, they just quit. They just leave. They disappear. It's gone, right? And him and Frank have kind of the showdown where, like, John is being, you know, man, it's Radiohead. Ambition makes you look pretty ugly. John is now become entranced with this possible power that he might be able to get if he can get famous and become a famous musician. And Frank is not ready for that kind of pressure. Frank was just trying to make music with people. And we know that Daniel Johnston tried to get big. We know those stories of him, you know, giving out his CDs when he worked at McDonald's. But there was always this kind of innocent, like, he just kind of stumbled into notoriety and fame. And you could tell that Frank, it was becoming too real for him. And I've ran into that too. I was in a band where we were getting to go to Nashville a lot and dealing with a lot of A&R guys, and, you know, things were moving, and the lead singer was just like, this is not where I wanted to be, and that band kind of decimated because of it. Man, this movie hit me so good. It hit me so good. So then Weasley has the breakdown with Frank in the mask, and Frank freaks out and leaves, and then John finds him and he's being consoled by Maggie Gyllenhaal, the overly angry, obviously mentally ill as well. She plays theremin, and then she's like trying to say that Frank can't handle this. This is a thing that Frank can't do because they have a big gig that's going to come. And then she stabs him in the leg and rolls off, and then she gets arrested. So now John has Frank, the mastermind of all this, the reason why they had this gig, and now John is hoisting his ideas about what this gig should be, and he has Frank convinced, and then they do the gig, and it's a big gig. There's a lot of people there, and they're doing it acoustic. And John even was like, "Oh yeah, man, acoustic gigs go over really well in South by Southwest." And there's even a scene where he's like looking up what the next big scene is in the music scene. It's the indie scene, right? This is from 2014, so that's about right. And Frank just freaks out in the middle of the gig, doesn't sing, and then John sings the La 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 song, and it's super shitty. And Frank falls out, and he just falls down and has a complete mental break. Man, this movie, God, it's so good. So then John's super pissed. They get back to the hotel. He's, like saying, "You ruined this. You ruined my chance at, fame." And man, I've been there. That John character hits so hard, where sometimes you forget that the periphery of what you're trying to make around your music can't become more important than the music that you're making. And it did, because this band, got popular through this wacky music, this outsider music that they were making that people were following along on social media. So then he's just like, "Take the mask off. I want to see you. Take your mask off." And then Frank freaks out, runs out, gets hit by a car. The mask breaks. He disappears. And he's gone. And then John's just stuck. And he doesn't have a band. He doesn't have no gig. And there's two peaks of this movie. The first one is he's eating at a diner in Austin. South by Southwest, it's all music fans, so everybody knows everything about music, and he's recognized, and they're like, "Oh, you're that guy." And the name of the band is it's unpronounceable, and I don't think they even ever say the name of the band. But he's like, "You're in that band that's on Twitter and YouTube." And John's like, "Oh, recognition, great, this is what I've been wanting." And then he realizes the guy talks about that so many people are into it just because of not the music, but because of the circus that surrounded Frank and this band of misfits. And John becomes deflated because he thought it was because of his music. And he becomes disillusioned. And he's super deflated. And it says so much about social media and art. And it was almost like this band would have been the greatest band in the world if they wouldn't have tried to become ambitious and go somewhere with it, do something. We always say that when we're in bands, do something, go somewhere with it. And so he goes on a search to find Frank, and he looks everywhere and he finds Frank, and Frank's at his mom and dad's house. And it's the first time you see Michael Fassbender. I have not talked about him enough. Michael Fassbender, he is wonderful. If this movie would have been bigger, and maybe if it didn't have that dark comedy label, I think he should have won something for it. His performance in this is phenomenal. So John Weasley goes to his mom and dad's house, and Fassbender has the mask off, and he's scarred up in his face. His hair's worn away, and he's got like dead skin up on his forehead from wearing that mask. And he never took the mask off. There's also a joke in the movie where he goes in and Frank is taking a shower, and he's got the mask on. He's got a bag over the mask so he can not get it wet. And he finds out from his parents that he's been mentally ill his whole life. And he used that mask as a way to cope and to feel comfortable in the world. And man, damn, if you've ever been a musician for any amount of time, you have ran into those kind of creative people. Let's be honest, man. Being musicians, we're cracked. We're broken. We want attention, and we want to make things that didn't exist before. So we've all dealt with these kind of musicians, and they make the best music for the most part. Daniel Johnston is a fucking genius. I love him. Uh, I have a geographical connection with him, actually. And you find out that he was using that mask so he could be. It was his whoopee. It was his way of being able to have relationships, and he was able to have relationships with band members and make music. And he was not trying to make music with any agenda. It was just to just be. They wanted this art to just be. So then I can't remember, because by this time it was like 5:30 in the morning, but somehow the rest of the band is playing at like a dive bar with just like 3 people there, and kind of 2 of them's playing pool. But they're on stage and they're just playing. They play, and like Maggie Gyllenhaal singing, and it kind of sounds like a song sounds like a Bjork tune, actually. And John brings in Frank, and man, the ending of this ending is worth the hour and a half that you put into it. And Frank comes up to the side of the stage. The guitar player hands him a microphone. And it's these 4 people who are out, I've said it a few times now, they're fringe outsiders. They're people who don't fit in the normal world, but they fit together in this ragtag, raucous musical unit. And John's on the outside watching from the bar, and Michael Fassbender sings this song called I Love You All, and it fucking hits you so hard, and you just realize that Frank the Mask and his music was just his way to be able to express his emotions and feelings out into the world, and he just wanted them out in the world without anything in return. Art for art's sake. It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful movie. This movie did not do well at all. I think on Wikipedia it said it made like $1.9 million. That is a travesty. This movie is so great. It just hit for musicians, man. There's so many things that hit you in this. Dealing with cracked people who use music as a therapy. And again, the musical sessions from the island was like musical therapy, and it made these people better. And I understand, man. Trust me. Not being able to play gigs, to be able to get my mental stuff together in those gigs has really fucked with me over this quarantine. And I think being in the quarantine and not playing gigs regularly and not having that artistic release made me love this movie that much more. That's what you're looking for, is pieces of art that hit you at the exact time that you needed hit with it. I cannot recommend this movie enough. It deals with the absurdities of being in music. There's a great joke of like the keyboard player is asked if he can play C, F, and G. That's a music joke. The blues form, the 1, 4, 5. And and they never play C, F, and G during the whole movie. The music is very it's like if Daniel Johnston and Captain Beefheart and the I can't remember Captain Beefheart's band were fused. And I don't know that much about the Frank Sidebottom character. That's something else I'm going to get into, because there's a documentary about that thing as well. But it just dealt with social media, about how do you get quote unquote famous these days. And unfortunately for this band, it wasn't because of their art, their music. It was because of the whack craziness that went on around it, and it was the schadenfreude that these people were watching from the outside, and it wasn't what John thought it was. And you could tell he had spent his whole life chasing something, and he almost got it, and then when he almost got it, he almost then found out that it wasn't what he thought it was. And that is just one of the best movies that I've seen in quite a while. Michael Fassbender, his best role, I think. The Weasley brother, great. Maggie Gyllenhaal, completely scary. She is a monstrous anger monster in this movie. She's great. The French guy just kind of yells in French a lot. The Otto Lux drummer never really talks all that much. See this movie. See this movie. I give this movie 5 drumsticks. Thank you all, and keep practicing until it's easy.